Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today, I'm going to be talking about the 13 lessons that I have learned in my 30s that have honestly changed my life for the better. And if you are new here, hello and welcome to my channel. And here on my channel, I love to discuss all the ways that we as Black women are learning and unlearning while living well and staying moisturized as always, because while Earth can be ghetto, we cannot be ashy. If that sounds good to you, feel free to subscribe and or hit the like button so that I know that you're here with me. I am officially in my late 30s. My birthday recently passed, and I am very much close to Club 40. And I've noticed that over these last couple of years, as I have reached my mid 30s and now into my late 30s, how much more life has become better for me compared to my early 30s and definitely my 20s. As much as I love my 20s, I do not want to repeat them again. And so I just wanted to share some things on here that I have learned that have really made my life better and kind of gotten it out of the flop era, if I'm going to be completely honest. The first lesson that I have learned is in the era of self-improvement and leveling up, it is okay for us to fully embrace who we are. And I mean the good and the bad. I feel like a lot of times we are concerned about being imperfect. We read all these self-help books. At one point, I was a big self-help book junkie, and I had to realize that it is okay. It is okay for me not to be perfect. I'm not saying that we shouldn't go to therapy. I'm not saying that we don't have things to work on. But I think in the era of trying to optimize everything in your life, which honestly can be and is very tiring, I think there is a liberation and a freedom to say, you know what? I have plenty of good things about myself. I have some things that are not so great, and that is just a part of me living on this earth and being human. And that is a part of 8 billion other people's reality and their human experience. And I've come to learn that while life isn't perfect for me, nor is it perfect for anyone, right? My life is very good, and I am okay with that. And I know that may be controversial because, we're very much in our self-help era, our leveling up era. But like I said, I think there's just a beauty in just accepting all of you, the great and not so great, and just living in that and being content. The second lesson I've learned, and probably the most important one, the one that I wish I learned way earlier, is that self-confidence is really the key to getting the life that you want. I underestimated how important this lesson is because for most of my life, I was not a confident person. As a child and adolescent, I was bullied. I had dreams for myself. I had really big dreams, and I didn't feel safe sharing those dreams with people because when I did, folks would undermine me or make me feel like I couldn't achieve them based on where I was from and how I looked like. And I let that carry me all into my 20s and definitely into my early 30s. When folks would have something positive to say about me, I blocked it out, I'll rationalize it, I will make excuses, I will minimize it, and I didn't like that about myself. And actually someone called me out on that years ago. And I don't know, I just always felt like in order to be loved and accepted, I had to do things for people. I had to work to get people's affection. I was very much a people pleaser in my 20s and a little bit less in my early 30s, but definitely still a tiny bit of that. I did not like that about myself. I did not like that about myself at all. And, I remember I had to call somebody up a few months ago, actually, to apologize to them. This person was always affirming me in my ideas and my goals and letting me know that, like, the negative things that people said weren't really about me, but it was about them projecting their own insecurities onto me. And at that time, I thought like, oh, of course you're supposed to say this, right? Like, that's your job, has someone who loves me. And then I realized a few months ago, I was like, wow, this person is right. I recently had to let go of a few friendships of folks who did that, who were undermining me, who, whenever I felt confident about something, felt the need to kind of like humble me, for lack of a better word, and bring me down a peg. And for years, I didn't realize that. And so I had to call that person and apologize. I was like, you know what? You have been telling me this for years, and I was never wise enough. I was never confident enough to see that you were actually right. You know, it's so funny because people always talk about fake it until you make it. But for a lot of us, myself included, who weren't raised with adults who affirmed who we are and our worth, to do that as an adult is actually really, really hard. It's not impossible, but it's doable. I spent so much of my life always worrying about what people said about me, wanting to do things, but letting other people's opinions get in the way. People who honestly, like, didn't even have a right to say anything because they weren't doing anything with their lives either. If I'm going to keep it 100, you know? And you know, even when it came down to like putting myself on video and starting on YouTube, I've been wanting to do this for 10 years. And I always let that crippling fear of, oh, people are going to think that I'm this and that, or people are going to think I'm full of myself because I want to record myself talking on YouTube. And now I think about it, I'm like, who cares? I look back on past me and I get really sad sometimes, just thinking about all the things that I could have done, all the things that I wanted to do a decade ago, 5, 7 years ago, that I let my lack of confidence and my worry impede that. But at the end of the day, I realized that yes, while that is sad, I'm not dead yet. While I am still alive, I still have a chance to pursue each and every one of my dreams, and that is exactly what I intend on doing. I learned to be self-confident the hard way, and this is not a way that I wish on anyone. I honestly kind of felt like I snapped a little bit and I got tired of feeling sorry for myself. I got tired of feeling sorry for myself. I got tired of feeling angry that I got the short end of the stick when it came to my childhood and adolescence. I got tired of being around people who were not affirming who I am, who felt like it was okay to make little digs at me. And I was just like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of this. I'm sick and tired of feeling this way. I'm sick and tired of not being confident in who I am and my abilities. And I told myself, I do not want to live the rest of my life like this anymore. I am tired. I think I was mentally tired. I was physically tired. And I told myself, I am going to learn how to be a confident person. If that meant getting rid of people, so be it. If that meant going to therapy, so be it. If that meant literally journaling and writing down all the things I liked about myself, so be it. But I just got tired. I got tired and I snapped and I'm like, forget this. I don't want to live life like this anymore. And I wish I had that revelation years and years ago. But like I said, it's never too late. I'm still alive and I can still course correct, for lack of a better word. The third lesson that I learned is being single is not a death sentence. Being single is not an issue. But you know what is an issue? Settling. I'm at the age where if people are not married already, they want to be married, especially if they want children. And I find that a lot in my circle because people are wanting to be married or want a long-term relationship or want to have a children with a partner, that folks aren't as discerning as they should be. I see it a lot in my circle where people are marrying guys who are honestly not great, or they marry the nice guy who does everything, but they don't feel that connection to them, right? As women, we are told that our worth is tied to a man, our worth is tied to a relationship, and whether we have children. And, you see it in the way that people treat single women, especially if you're single and you're over 30 or 35. It's like, oh, something is wrong with you because you're not married or you're, not in a relationship. And so I'm not going to sit here and like wag my finger and sit here on my high horse, because I know that those are the expectations that we are supposed to uphold as women. It's easy to get married. I know it sounds crazy. It's easy to be in a relationship. It is a little bit harder to be in a relationship that's a really, really healthy one and one that is great for you. I have so many friends who have conformed, twisted, shrank themselves just for the sake of being with a guy, or just to make sure that their partner doesn't feel emasculated. And when I think about them, it makes me really sad. My friends are wonderful people who are stars, and to see their light diminish, I don't know. It really makes me sad. A lot of times we end up picking someone because we just want to be picked, right? We just want to be somebody's wife. We want to feel chosen. We want to get out of the dating pool, because dating understandably can be very hard, and we're just tired, right? We just want to opt out of dating. But we do that at the expense of our joy, our happiness, our dreams. I have a few friends, not too many, less than a handful, who are in really happy, healthy relationships. And the difference between those friends and my other friends are night and day. The ones who are in really happy and healthy partnerships, their partner is consistently encouraging them. I mean, they are going harder for their spouse's dreams than they are themselves. Like, some of my friends' husbands and boyfriends and partners are amazing people, and the kind of people that I wish we can all have, and I think we can all have. And I see how light those friends are, how their relationship and marriage is a source of joy and love and ease, and a place to rest their head, a place where they can be completely themselves and just take off the mask and breathe. And that is what I want for me. That's what I want for you. That is what I want for all of us. And I've learned in this particular season of my life is, if I don't have that, I am more than happy, perfectly happy with being single. Because at the end of the day, a relationship only benefits you as a woman if it's a great one. If it's a bad one, no. If it's a mediocre one, no. Because as women, we already sacrifice so much anyway, that in terms of our love lives, you absolutely have to be with someone that you really love and adore, and that really loves and adores you. Because if you feel like you have to worry, or coerce somebody into loving you the way you want to be loved, it never works. I don't know one situationship that has turned into a healthy or loving relationship. And this also goes for friendships. I don't know anybody who started off disliking somebody and then they became their ride or die. It's like, usually people don't like you, they don't like you, they don't mess with you. I'm not going to lie and say that it's been easy being someone in their late 30s and being single at this moment, but I am content, because I know the good that's out there. I have seen it with my own eyes. I have models of really, really healthy partnerships, and I know that this is what I deserve, and I'm not going for anything less than that, just to say that I am partnered with someone. My fourth lesson that I've learned is, what's comfortable for you is not always the right thing. If you know you're in a bad relationship, you're in a bad friendship, you're in a job that you hate, you know you're supposed to leave that job, right? At least we're supposed to know, right? But for me, the hard part of that lesson is not necessarily when things are blatantly bad. It's that weird gray space between things not being horrible, but like things not exactly being great. So, for example, being in a hot and cold relationship, being in a hot and cold partnership, having a job that you're like, it pays the bills, but you want to do something more, right? Maybe you want to switch careers or you want to progress in your career, or maybe not. And I've learned that being in my comfort zone isn't always the best way for me to grow as a person and the best way to live up to my fullest potential. You know, back in 2020, I was working this job as a copywriter and I did not like that job at all. And I always knew I wanted to work for myself, always, always, always. But I kind of chickened out on it a little bit. And one day, out of frustration, I don't know, this seems to be a theme. When I get frustrated with things, I just go and act. One day I said, I don't know anybody who is self-employed. I don't know anybody that owns a business, but I'm going to figure it out because I knew that I could not work in a 9 to 5 anymore. I knew that that 9 to 5 structure wasn't for me. And I'm not one of those people that are like, oh, everybody should be an entrepreneur and like all 9 to 5 suck. No, I feel like we need people in all areas of life. We need our corporate girlies, we need our self-employed girlies. But I knew for me, the structure of a 9 to 5 was not working. I was just like, yeah, I could be comfortable and work another 9 to 5, but I knew that for the life that I dreamed and the life that I wanted, it meant figuring out how to work for myself. And I did for the most part. I'll probably talk about that more in another video. But yeah, it's so easy for us to be comfortable. But I think that when you're comfortable somewhere and you know you're not supposed to be, you feel this ache in your heart, this ache in your soul. It's like something is constantly nagging you to say, listen, this ain't it. This ain't it. You got to do more. You got to do more, right? And you may not always know how to get there, but the fact that that seed is planted in your soul, you know you can't ignore it because that seed is just going to germinate and it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing until you do something about it. The fifth lesson that I've learned, and something that could be kind of hard for us to wrap our heads around, depending on how you grew up and where you grew up, is that we are in the driver's seat of our own lives. A lot of times it does not feel like that, especially in the current times that we live. It doesn't feel like we have as much autonomy over our lives. I think about this in terms of the people that we surround ourselves with. Family is, family's a little tricky. But in terms of our friends, we can pick the friends that we want. We can pick the jobs that we want. We can pick where we want to live. I lived in Houston for 3 years before moving to the East Coast. And as much as I wanted to like Houston, it was the lower cost of living. It wasn't a place where I knew I could fully be myself and fully live up to my potential, among some other things as well. I had to realize that I am in charge of my life. Instead of waiting to be chosen, to be picked, waiting for some kind of validation or affirmation from someone, I have to get that to myself. So when I am thinking about relationships or friendships, I'm thinking to myself, do I like this person? Do I feel myself around this person? Is this someone that I see myself growing deeper with, right? Instead of asking myself, oh, does this person like me? How do they feel about me? Which they're entitled to that, but I need to be in touch with myself and say, okay, how does this person impact my life? And is this impact a positive one? And once I realized that I have a lot of control in terms of how I want my life to go, it was liberating. I know for some people that may feel like a bit of a burden, but for me, it just kind of felt like, okay, I can do this. There are so many things that I can do with this life that I'm given. And it was kind of just like, I just felt like the world was open to me. And I'm just like, okay, I can do this. I can design the life that I want. Where do I want to go? What path do I want to take? And I don't know, there's something just like really exhilarating and exciting to just feel like, ooh, like I can more or less do a lot of things. For me, I grew up working class. I grew up in the inner city. I grew up I grew up where it was more likely for you to go to jail or, be a teen mom, right? So it's not like I grew up in a place where there were high expectations for people that looked like me. But in the back of my head, I always knew there was more to life. And me realizing that I have a lot of control about how my life went in the direction that it took just really, I don't know, it brought me joy. Lesson number 6 that I've learned, and I don't know where I got this from. I've heard this before, and I'm sure you guys may have heard this too, is do a friendship inventory. As you grow and as you change, obviously, right? Because as we age, we all grow and change and morph in different ways. The people that may have messed with you before may or may not be the people that mess with you now. In my case, I have had a bunch of friends that I've known since maybe from like 11 to like college, after college. And I have changed so much since then, so much. And in the last year or two, I've had to let go of a lot of those old childhood friends because I realized that they don't see me or like me for who I am now. They preferred the old me, the person that wasn't confident, the person that was always doubting themselves. And I have no intention on returning to that old person at all. One of the biggest things that I've learned in terms of curating the kind of friends that I want is that you have to be friends with confident, secure people. And I think the reason why I didn't have confident, secure people as friends before was because I wasn't confident and secure. But I noticed that once I became really self-assured, I attracted those people. And let me tell you, there is a big difference with having friends who are confident versus the ones that are insecure. With my friends who are confident, I can be vulnerable and share all of my dreams, no matter how big or lofty they may seem from the outside. And they're like, you know what, Bonnie, we believe in you. Let's do it. One of my dreams is to live across continents. I would love to like own an apartment in Europe and live between Europe and here. And I don't tell everyone that. I'm telling y'all this because, I want to be vulnerable and I want to manifest what I want out there. But my friends who are like confident and who are self-assured, they're like, okay, I don't see why you can't do it. So what's the plan? What are we saving? Where are you trying to go in Europe? How are you going to get there? It's been a blessing to have those friends. It's been a blessing to be with folks who allow me the opportunity to dream big, allow me the opportunity to be vulnerable, and they don't feel the slightest bit intimidated by those dreams and vice versa. I have creative sessions with my friends and whiteboarding sessions with my friends to try to give them advice on how they can achieve their really big dreams too, right? And it's been a blessing. And although it was painful to let some of those old friends go, I had to realize that I didn't really have much in common with those people anymore. I've changed. And a lot of times, people might not like the new you, and it goes both ways, right? You might not like the way your friend has changed. And I've learned that, just because you've been friends with somebody for a long time doesn't necessarily mean that you guys are supposed to be friends forever. It is okay for friendships to change. It is okay for friendships to end. Nothing is truly static in life. And once I learned that and decided to like really take a look at my friends, it really improved the relationships that I already had greatly. And it left me the space to be open to find new friends. And that's another thing I would love to throw out there too is, be open to getting to know new people, be open to getting to know new friends, because while it is beautiful and it's wonderful to have friends who know you and know your history, it is also really beautiful to have friends that know who you are now and embrace that fully. Tip number 7 is I learned to get my money right. I think we live in a social media era where everyone's going to Bali, everyone's buying designer. It seems like everyone is living this lavish life. And it could be really tempting to live above your means just to keep up with appearances, right? But what I've learned is living at my means, or even better, living below my means, really means the difference between being annoyed or being petrified when a life emergency happens or when an unexpected expense occurs. Me being prudent with my money, me saving my money, has really afforded me a level of ease, knowing that if, I don't know, my car needs a repair for a couple $1,000s, which actually happened a few months ago, or if a job is not working out, I know that I have a security blanket to remove myself from those situations or to fix my car without me necessarily going into a ton of debt. If you can save $20 every 2 weeks, that's a couple $100s a year. And I know a lot of times we think that we have to save these big amounts of money, these large amounts of money, to feel financially kind of safe, but every little bit counts. I know it's really hard to not have FOMO, especially when you see everyone allegedly living this very lavish life, but living below my means has really afforded me a level of just ease, knowing that for the most part, more or less, I'm okay, or I know that I'm going to be okay if life's, because as we know, life be lifing. The eighth lesson that I have learned is age ain't nothing but a number. Age is a social construct. And yes, as we age, of course, we get older. That comes with some health problems, that comes with some mobility issues. But I've had to learn, and I'm still learning not to call myself old in my late 30s. I am not old. I am not old in my 30s, my 40s, my 50s, or my 60s. I am old whenever I say that I am old. And I know for women it's really hard because society tells us that we need to be as youthful as possible, or at least have the appearance of youth in order to be considered a valued member of society as women. And we know that's bullshit, but we also know that we live in this world, right? And, we live in a society that is honestly ageist and does not respect our elderly, which I feel it's a real missed opportunity to incorporate our elders, because they have so much wisdom, so much to give us, and there is so much more I know about life now than I did in my 20s and early 30s. There is so much wisdom I have, and so much wisdom that I have yet to attain. And I have no desire at all to go back to my early 20s or any of my 20s at all. I feel like a lot of times we have this idea of growing old and not being able to do what we want to do. But I just believe until I'm dead, until I'm 6 feet under, or, literally ashes, I am going to do, I am going to pursue, I am going to dream the biggest dreams that I can have, because you know what? Life is a gift, and we have two options. You either die young or you grow old. That's it. And I have no idea when the universe or whoever's out there is going to say that it's my time to go. But I want to leave this life knowing that I did my absolute best to work on the things that I wanted to work on. My ninth tip is that if you want to live an unconventional life in any form or fashion, prepare yourself for the backlash. Whew. This has been a lesson that I have learned a lot over these last couple of years. I define unconventional as anything outside of the whole get married, get a house, buy kids. I'm sorry, not buy kids. Get married, get a house, have kids. I'm at the age where, like I mentioned before, a lot of people are married, want to be married, to have children. I am the only Yeah, I'm the only intentionally child-free person in my circle. I've known that I wanted to be child-free since I was 17, to be honest. But I always thought that I will have to have kids, even though I didn't necessarily desire to be a mother. And then once I realized, I was like, wait, I actually don't have to have kids. I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. I mean, outside of paying taxes and paying bills, of course, right? I say prepare yourself because you will be a pariah. You will be the odd one person out in your friend group or your family. You will be the eclectic, eccentric auntie, which honestly, I'm looking forward to being the eclectic and eccentric auntie. A lot of people are not going to understand why you want to get out of the traditional mold as a woman. And to be honest, it's not for them to understand. I'm gonna just keep it real. Your life is your life. Live your own life. I think so many people are unhappy with their lives because they never really thought about what they wanted. They just did what they thought they were supposed to do. And we all know people that did everything by the book, that did everything that they were supposed to do, and they are still very, very deeply unhappy. And like I said, I have empathy because as women, we are not taught to think about what we really want for ourselves, especially if what we want for ourselves is unconventional, right? Of course, we're told be married, have kids, have the house, have the career. But anything that deviates from those things, whew, you would definitely look like an outcast. That can be hard. If you do not have the fortitude to go through with the life that you want, you would end up with a life that you did not choose and a life that you resent. And I see this with folks in my circle, and let me tell you, it's not fun to feel like you are in a life that you feel trapped by. Back in 2020, I had wrote what I felt was my ideal life. And when I realized that my ideal life looked nothing like my friends and my family, it made me panic a little bit. You know, I did think to myself, what are people going to think about me definitely not having kids? What are people going to think about me wanting to travel the world? What are people going to think about me not wanting to live in this country full time, you know? And I thought to myself, I owe it to myself to live this life that I want, live this life that I dreamed of, live this life that I'm happy to be a part of. Because let me tell you something, the people that have said negative things about the things that I want to do in my life, they're not happy themselves. And I bet that if you told someone that you wanted to do something that was outside of conventional norms, they will probably not be too keen on that. But I tend to think to myself, the folks that were naysayers, the folks that had something to say, honestly, they had no business saying anything to me because they're not living happy lives. And that's one thing I had to realize. I'm like, you can't listen to people who are not happy. You cannot. Because in a lot of ways, people love misery and misery loves company. And when you are living your life outside of conventional norms and you are happy, like truly happy, you are joyous, people are confused. People are like, wait, you're not married, you don't have kids, you don't have a house, and yet you're like, you're good? People can't comprehend that, and people are often resentful of that because there are some folks who did everything they thought they were supposed to do to achieve happiness, and then they realized that none of these things actually made them happy. And you know, I saw a TikTok the other day, and I don't remember the creator. I wish I did. She was reading a passage from a book, and she said, real self-care is living a life that you love. And living a life that you love often means doing the things that people won't do now so that you can live the life that people can't. And I was like, wow, that is a word. And it's I don't know. I heard that a few days ago, and it's stuck with me ever since. I chose a life very different from the people that I know, and I am hell bent on living that particular life to the fullest. And yeah, just knowing that I am doing things that people are not doing now so that I can live the life that other people can't. I'm not gonna lie, it can be isolating to feel that you are not at the same life stage as a lot of your friends. But for me, what has been really important is finding people who are like me, who are kindred souls in that regard, people who are also really open to life and want to see everything that life has to offer. My 10th lesson that I've learned is that solitude is an absolute must. I moved out on my own a few years ago, completely on my own, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made. Prior to that, I was either living with partners or roommates, but living on my own in solitude, having that stillness, having a place to come to that was all my own, really made me introspective about a lot of things in my life. It really gave me the time and the space to really plan out the kind of life that I wanted. And I felt like for me, my true glow up came in those times of solitude where I had no one and nobody but myself. And I had to figure out and work on my own stuff. And it is in that quiet and that stillness that I was able to evaluate my life and figure out the things that I wanted to change and the things that I really loved about my life that I wanted to stay the same. All right, lesson number 11 that I've learned, which is an interesting one, is I have to determine my personal enough. And what I mean by this is, okay, when it comes to money, for example, I have a number in my head where I'm like, I want to reach this number. If I go higher than this number, great, but I'm not working harder to reach a number that's higher than my personal enough. When it comes to things like fitness, you know, I want to be fit, I want to be healthy, but my personal enough is not having a six pack. Like, I am not working that hard to have a six pack. You know, that's my personal enough. And I say this because in society, A, as women, we're told that we're never enough. And B, you will work yourself to the bone, constantly trying to achieve the next level of something, right? Whether it's your career, fitness goals, or something. And then you realize you're working towards something and you don't even know why you're working for it, right? For me, I've had to determine my limits, how far I was going to go with certain things, and say to myself, although life is not perfect, my life is very good, and I'll take very good. For me, very good is perfect. I don't need perfect to be perfect. What I want and what I aim to achieve in my life is very good. If you don't determine your personal enough, you will constantly pick on yourself. You will constantly be on the hamster wheel of God knows what trend is going on. And you will just never feel satisfied or content in your life. The 12th lesson that I have learned is that joy is our birthright. I think a lot of us hold on to traumatic experiences, bad experiences like a security blanket, right? We feel like we don't deserve happiness because of the things that we have done, the mistakes that we have made in life, or the crappy things that people have done to us. And I used to be one of those people that wore my past like like a teddy bear, like a blanket. It gets exhausting, right? It's tiring to do that. Once I realized that there's nothing wrong with being joyous, that joy is a part of life and I have a right to be joyous, things really changed for me. I had to realize that it is my responsibility and my responsibility alone to figure out what brings me joy in this life and to work every day to bring a little bit of that joy in my life. And this could be hard, right? Because a lot of times we wear our trauma on our sleeves. We don't work on our trauma. We don't seek therapy. A lot of us, if I'm going to keep it 100, our trauma is a big part of our identity. And oftentimes we're not ready to let go of that identity. But once you realize that on the other side of working through trauma and bad experiences is joy, peace. I mean, peace is a big one. It makes it a little bit easier to let that stuff go. I had to realize that no one is responsible for the way my life turns out other than me. I am responsible for this one life that I have. Yes, people may have done things that weren't so great. I may not have had the greatest upbringing, but I am an adult, and as an adult, I have the power to shape how I look at those experiences, and I have the power to shape what I want my future to look like going forward. My last lesson that I've learned is, this is one that I had to learn the hard way, is being careful on who I seek advice from, but also making sure that I have a good council of folks that I can get advice from. One example is relationships, right? I am private about my relationships, my dating life with a lot of my friends. However, there are 2 or 3 friends that I can go to talk about relationships and dating because they're either in healthy relationships, or if they're single, they have been in healthy relationships, so they know what a healthy partnership looks like. I realize that a lot of people give bad advice. They don't mean to give bad advice, but their intentions are good, but their advice isn't. You know what I mean? And I've learned to be really careful about the counsel that I seek and to make sure that I'm talking to people who have a healthy and has objective of a perspective on what I'm asking for. Thank you so much for watching and joining me today. If you like this video, please hit the like button so I know, and share this with someone who can relate. And let me know what you think about this video in the comments below. Until next time, love you all, take care, and see you soon. Bye.